Hey guys, Halcyon here. Today we'll be covering the medic class in Battlefield 1. This guide is going to be split up into 3 videos. We'll start off by going over the basics of the class, move on to some intermediate topics, and finally conclude with expert strategies that'll help you maximize your effectiveness. Let's start off our discussion of the basics by covering 2 equally important topics: what you should do and what you should not do. The medic's primary role is as a support class. You should not be charging headfirst into battles or attempting to take on the entire enemy team single-handedly. Join a squad. You'll be more effective and get a ton of score by staying behind your team and providing revives and heals, covering the flanks with your rifle, and throwing utility grenades such as gas and smoke to cover your team's advance or retreat. And if you care about such things, you will get more kills and fewer deaths than if you just ran around the map playing Rambo Medic and not supporting your team at all. Another thing you should not do is attempt to go for revives that are useless or will put you in danger. While it can be tempting to try to revive teammates who are surrounded by enemies, being watched by a tank, etc., there's absolutely nothing good that will come of it, and you'll most likely end up on the respawn screen. Now, that's not to say that you should be afraid to take risks. If you have a decent amount of support from your team, or notice that the enemy is focusing fire someplace else, then take a chance because it could very well pay off. Another good reason for heading into danger for revive is if there is something to be gained from it. For example, if you're communicating with a downed squad member who has anti-tank grenades and a nearby enemy tank is nearly dead, it might be worth trading your life for the potential destruction of an enemy vehicle. That's a pretty good trade in my opinion. To sum it all up, being a good medic is all about patience, good teamwork, and calculated risk-taking. There's a lot of luck involved sometimes, but if you make an effort to consciously pay attention to the risks in every situation as you play, you'll improve very quickly and learn to use that randomness to your advantage. You might not get as many kills as the guy running around playing Team Deathmatch in an objective-based game mode, but you'll have a much bigger impact on the game, a much higher score, and your teammates will love you for it. Let's talk about the primary weapons first. The medic rifles are very powerful and versatile. There's 5 of them to choose from, each with 3 variants, and a final rifle that is unlocked at class level 10. I'm not going to cover each one in detail, as that's a topic for a much longer video, but I will talk about them generally and offer my opinion on which ones are the best. The Selbstlader is the starter rifle. It has a quick rate of fire, an automatic setting, a 10-round magazine, and decent damage and accuracy. Unfortunately, the quick rate of fire isn't that useful, as attempting to fire too quickly with any of the medic rifles will noticeably diminish your accuracy, making the automatic mode useless except in close quarters, where the bullet spread is less noticeable. The 2 rifles which I would consider to be top tier are the Mondragon variants and the Selbstlader variants. The Mondragon has higher damage, better accuracy, and better damage drop than the Selbstlader. There are some downsides as well, though. The Mondragon fires slower, but as I mentioned before, this is not very important, and the Selbstlader has less spread while hip firing and moving while aiming down sights, but ideally you won't be in situations where you need to hip fire, and the Mondragon has less spread while standing still while aiming down sights, which is the most common method of firing. The Selbstlader has all of the advantages of the Mondragon, except it has an extra 16 rounds in the magazine, 26 in total, slightly less recoil, and a slower rate of fire, which again is not very important. There are 3 variants of each weapon. The close quarter combat variants, the Trench, Factory, Sweeper, and Storm, all have iron sights. Generally speaking, these variants are better suited for close quarters combat and hip firing. They might be preferred depending on your playstyle and the situation, such as what area of the map you're in. For most situations, however, the optical variants are the best, as these come with a scope, have better accuracy, and less spread while aiming down sights. Finally, there are the Sniper and Marksman variants, which have scopes as well, and have even better accuracy at the cost of reload speed, for the M1916 at least. My preferred variant is optical, as I prefer the scope over the iron sights, and like to play at 2 times magnification. Which one you prefer will depend on a number of factors, including personal preference, so I recommend playing around with each of them, and switching it up depending on which map and game mode you're on. Finally, let's talk about the level 10 rifle, the Selbstlader 1906 Factory. This rifle is terrible. The main reason is the awful 5-round magazine, which would be fine except the damage is the same as the M1916. It only has slightly less recoil, and there's no scope. It might have a slight advantage in a rare 1v1 situation, but in the majority of instances it is outclassed by every other rifle in the medic's loadout. For more detailed information about each weapon and comparisons, I recommend visiting simthic.com/bf4-stats. I'll place a link in the description. Let's take a short look at the sidearms. This choice doesn't really matter that much, and in my opinion, most of it comes down to personal preference. I prefer the default for the 9-round magazine and good hipfire accuracy, but beyond that, I haven't really put much thought into it. Rarely do I have to pull out my sidearm because of the M1916's huge magazine size. If you have any reasons why you think one is definitely better than the others, then leave a comment and I'll mention it in a future video. Like the sidearm, your choice of melee weapon really comes down to personal preference. I like the shovel because it's hilarious, but the pickaxe or hatchet is a good choice too. These 3 weapons have the highest damage of the melee weapons, and the pickaxe and hatchet can damage terrain features. The other melee weapons, like the knives, do less damage but are faster. You can experiment a little here to find out which one you like best. The next loadout choice you have to make is which 2 gadgets you will take. This choice will define your playstyle as a medic. While there are 6 gadgets to choose from, I won't be covering the rifle grenades in this video as they are highly situational. First off, the medical syringe. This is basically required if you want to be a medic. If you don't want to take it, you might as well switch to another class, honestly. The syringe is able to revive downed teammates who have not tapped out yet. You can find eligible teammates by looking for the skull icon on the game screen or the minimap. If the icon is flashing, that means the person is holding down the skip key, so you may not be able to reach them in time. Generally speaking, you should avoid going for players who are skipping, as it places you at risk for no reason. If you see teammates doing this a lot, it's a good idea to tell them in team chat to be a little more patient and observant. After all, they'll have to wait for the respawn timer regardless of if they skip, so why not give you a chance to revive them? The second slot should be filled by either the bandage pouch or the medical crate. The bandage pouch can be tossed to teammates and will heal them in intervals all the way to max health, regardless of if they were at 99 health or 1 health when they received it. Taking damage will interrupt the healing, however. You can store a maximum of 2 pouches. You have to wait about 2 seconds between each throw, and it takes about 6 or 7 seconds to recharge. I don't know the exact maximum range for these, but it seems to be anywhere between 15 and 20 meters, and it's possible that it's affected by how quickly you're moving toward the target. The medical crate allows you to heal a large number of teammates passively in a rather large radius. It'll last until it's destroyed by explosions or gunfire, and can be placed again after about 5 seconds. Which one you choose will depend on the situation. One thing to consider is that this game is very mobile. You and your teammates will usually be moving around the map constantly, so the bandage pouch is probably the best choice in most situations, especially for offense. When you're just camping around a point or trying to hold a location, the medical crate can be extremely useful since it's able to heal passively, and heal multiple teammates at once. Personally, I run the bandage pouch about 95% of the time, but then again, I'm a very active and aggressive player. If you're a more defensive player, however, the medical crate might be the best choice for you. Finally, let's talk about the grenades. Your choice of grenade will depend heavily on the situation and somewhat on personal preference. Stick grenades, impact grenades, and mini grenades are all effective against infantry. As a medic, there are better choices than these, though, but if you decide to go with them, they're best suited for defending choke points like the ones on Argonne Forest, or killing enemies in buildings who have nowhere to run. The gas grenades and incendiary grenades have similar uses. They're both very effective at area denial. The gas grenade has the advantage of lasting longer, obscuring vision, and having a larger area of effect. Enemies can simply put on a gas mask to negate its effects, however, at the cost of not being able to aim down sights. The incendiary grenade is also very useful. It cannot be negated with a mask, does damage more quickly, and it doesn't last as long and has a smaller area. Personally, I prefer gas grenades because of the vision obscuring effects, and use them the majority of the time. They're essentially smoke grenades with a smaller AoE, but with added damage. Very useful for offense and defense. Finally, there's the light anti-tank grenade. I haven't experimented with this one much, but it doesn't seem to do a whole lot of damage, and honestly, your main focus as a medic shouldn't be taking out vehicles. Leave that to the assaults, please. I would not recommend choosing this one. So that concludes the first video of my medic guide.
I got one also. Oh, there's
In the next video, we'll talk about some intermediate topics like the strategic use of smoke grenades, how to effectively play with a squad, dealing with vehicles and snipers, and using rifle grenades. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Halcyon out.